fair of me to drag them into this when they don't want to be there.
Dr. Carson, can you explain the use of the term scholarship and West Point, your use of that in the past?
Sure.
And the involvement of General William Westmoreland in getting that scholarship to West Point?
If you look at one of the websites that West Point has today, it says government offer full scholarship to West Point. So they use that very language themselves. So almost 50 years ago, they may have been using that language as well.
But
the situation.
Did you understand it at the time that you needed to apply?
No, it didn't go to that extent because they were very impressed with what I had done. I had become the city executive officer in less time than anybody else had ever done that. And they were saying, you would be a tremendous addition to the military, and we can get you into West Point with a full scholarship. And I simply said, I want to be a doctor. I really appreciate it. I'm very flattered. And I moved on. So it didn't go on any further than that.
To what extent do you believe your West Point account is relevant to the public's assessment of you as a presidential candidate?
I don't think it's relevant at all, but I think what it shows, and these kinds of things show, is that there is a desperation on behalf of some to try to find a way to tarnish me because they have been looking through everything. They have been talking to everybody I've ever known, everybody I've ever seen. There's got to be a scandal. There's got to be some nurse he's having an affair with. There's got to be something. They are getting desperate. So next week, it'll be my kindergarten teacher who said I peed in my pants. I mean, it's just ridiculous. But it's okay because I totally expect it.
Can you tell us, just clarify your meeting with General Westmoreland? When was this and what was talked about?
Well, I was invited to a number of events because of my position. There was, this is almost 50 years ago, but there was a lot of excitement about some Congressional Medal of Honor winners, at least one of which was from Detroit. And there was a big affair that I was invited to, and that's the one where I had an opportunity to meet the general. And that was also a time, as I recall, that several of the high brass told me that I would be somebody that they would be interested in the military.
Did you make
it's not the same, though, Dr. Carson, as being actually offered a scholarship. Having someone say, we can get you in with a scholarship, doesn't mean you've actually been given a scholarship.
Well, it was an offer to me. It was specifically made.
Did you interpret it as an offer, or was it?
I interpreted it as an offer. I made it very clear in my. I don't remember the names. I don't remember the names of the people. It's almost 50 years ago. I bet you don't remember all the people you talked to 50 years ago. But anyway, they told me this was available to me because of my accomplishments and that they would be delighted for me to do it. And I told them immediately that my intention was to become a physician. It always has been. And I was very honored, but I would not be pursuing that. I also made it very clear in my book that I only applied to one college. I only had enough money to apply to one college. And I decided to apply to the college that won the grand championship in college ball. And that year the grand championship was between Harvard and Yale. You can go back, I'm sure, and find the records and see that it was in fact between Harvard and Yale. And that Yale demolished Harvard. So, I mean, probably anybody who's associated with Harvard wouldn't want you to find those records, but it's there.
Go
ahead, right here.
To those who say you may have exaggerated and you're using that to build your resume as far as the West Point, what would you say to those people?
I would say, where's the exaggeration?
Dr. Carson, one of your opponents has already said this is the beginning of the end. How do you think this will affect you in the polls, if it will at all?
Well, you said the key word there, opponent. What do you expect them to say?
Okay. So Dr. Carson intimated that we would get some more details potentially as early as this weekend about your childhood friends that you were involved in violence with, potentially revealing Bob or Jerry. Can you expand on this? Are we going to get their identities?
Well, if you want to find their identity, let me tell you where you probably should go. You should go to the incident where it happened, to the place where it happened. Wilson Junior High School in Detroit is where the lock incident occurred. And maybe they still have the records. It was 51, 52 years ago. but maybe they still have them.
And the other incidents too?
Which other incident?
With your mother, all of these, the other, Bob and Jerry, which one's the
Well-
lock? You know, we haven't really aligned both names up with each.
Well, the incident with my mother, she, I, and my brother were the only people who were there.
What do you make of the
Dr.
fact
Carson,
that
you mentioned
people
that-
seem to have a recollection when questions were asked? Everybody that has been spoken to says, "I don't remember these incidents."
Well, why would they? Why would they remember them? I mean, I think that is, as a scientist who does investigations, that is the most lame investigation I have ever seen, where you get people and you find people random people in the neighborhood who knew me. Well, you obviously must know about that specific incident.
Who would be
What
able
a
to
bunch
speak
of
to that?
garbage. Only people who would know about that would be the people who were involved.
Isn't
Because-
that-
For the first time last night, you mentioned.
But wait a minute, let me finish. You would need to talk to the people who were involved in the incident. Now, I have said, if they wish to come forward and have a barrage of media, they're welcome to do so. I would in no way discourage them or encourage them to do that. But that's a choice that's up to them.
But
It would
they
be
have to
very
aware of the
unfair.
complication that this is causing you having.
I don't think it's causing a complication. And here's my prediction. My prediction is that all of you guys trying to pile on is actually going to help me. Because when I go out to these book signings, I see these thousands of people, they say, don't let the media get you down. Don't let them disturb you. Please continue to fight for us. See, they understand that this is a witch hunt.
Dr. Carson, you mentioned for the first time last night that.
How important is the African American vote?
This gentleman right
How
here.
do you think you can actually rely on that support? I mean, maybe through the primary, but at some point you're going to have to get to the substantive issues and stop.
And that's exactly what I'm trying to do, get to the substantive issues. This is all subterfuge. Things that happened 45, 50 years ago, that's
So
all.
why not get them out of the way
That's,
and move on? You say you
as
don't
far
want
as
to
I'm
deal with
concerned,
people, but you're running for president.
as far as I'm concerned, they are out of the way. Now, and let me just say one other thing. I do not remember this level of scrutiny for one President Barack Obama when he was running. In fact, I remember just the opposite. I remember people just, oh, well, we won't really talk about that. We won't talk about that relationship. Well, Frank Marshall Davis, well, we don't want to talk about that. Bernadine Dorn, Bill Ayers, he didn't really know him. All the things that Jeremiah Wright was saying, not a big problem. Goes to Occidental College, doesn't do all that well, and somehow ends up at Columbia University. Well, I don't know. His records are still. Why is his record still? Why are you guys not interested in why his records are still? Why are you not interested in that? Let me ask that. Can somebody tell me why?
Why do you
Please?
think they are?
I'm asking you why it's still. Why?
But-
No, don't change it. I'm
This
asking you,
gives the
will
impression that you
someone
think there's some nefarious
will
reason
someone
behind it.
tell me,
Can you
please,
tell me
why you have not investigated that? I want to know.
Why are you raising it?
Why? Because I want to know. You should want to know too. The president of wait a minute. Hold on 1 minute. 1 second here. Now you're saying that something that happened with the words a scholarship was offered is a big deal, but the president of the United States, his academic records being sealed is not. Tell me. Wait a minute. Tell me how there's equivalency there. It doesn't matter where it is. Tell me how. That is a silly argument. Tell me how there's equivalence there. Tell me how there is equivalence there. Tell me somebody, please. Because you see, what you're not going to find with me is somebody who's just going to sit back and let you be completely unfair without letting the American people know what's going on. And the American people are waking up to your game.
Dr. Carson, Daphne Taylor, South Florida Times. Do you think that there would have been this level of scrutiny about your so-called violent past if you hadn't brought it up yourself? Like if they had found this information out beforehand, before you disclosed it, do you think you would be treated the same?
Well, let me put it this way. If everybody here will sign an affidavit saying that if I reveal the name of the person involved in this stabbing incident, that you will be singing my praises and none of this stuff will ever go on again, I'll think about it. Will you do that? Yes? Yes? Yes, yes, yes?
Dr. Carson, our job is to ask questions and try to vet people.
Hey,
We're the highest office in the land.
Yeah, well, my job is to call you out when you're unfair, and I'm going to continue to do that.
Are other facts in the book accurate? You're saying this is just the one thing?
What is just the one thing?
The deal with the West Point?
What about the West Point thing is
I'm
false?
saying,
What is
you're
false
saying
about
this
it?
is one thing, but is everything else in the book accurate?
As far as I know, it's accurate, yes.
Do you feel like it was dishonest or not? It seems like you.
Wait a minute, hold on.
Donald Trump has said, he tweeted out very soon after this came out, that this is one of many lies of Dr. Ben Carson, and it's a big story. What would be your response?
What would you expect Donald Trump to say with somebody who's running neck and neck with him? What would you expect him to say?
For someone to say it's dishonest, it seems like today the reports have been that you said you received a full scholarship.
I never said I received a full scholarship.
Do you feel
I never, wait a minute, don't lie. I never said that I received a full scholarship. Nowhere did I say that.
There have been reports today is what I'm trying to say.
Politico, as you know, told a bold-faced lie. They've been called out on that by the Washington Post and by the New York Times, and I'm sure there'll be several others who will call them out on that, because there are actually some people with integrity in your business.
What I'm trying to get at
You
is
just
you
said, you just told me
dishonesty.
that you got a scholarship offer. You just said that.
No, she said that I got a scholarship. I never said I got a scholarship.
So
I
you
had
didn't get a
people.
scholarship.
I had people who said yes, that I could get a scholarship to West Point, and I told them that I wasn't interested, that I was going to pursue medicine.
Dr. Carson, could you be clearer about this, and this wouldn't be an issue now? Did you make a mistake in the way you characterized this?
I don't think so. I think it's perfectly clear. I think there are people who want to make it into a mistake. I'm not going to say it is a mistake, so forget about it.
Dr. Carson, all the information about the violent past, why is that so important? Why is that an issue? Why is that important for your background?
Well, it's important to me because it was the transformation for me. That's when I became a person who really understood the power of God in a person's life. And it created a whole new relationship between me and God at that point.
Moving forward, while we're here tonight, the African American vote, is that important to you? And are you doing a good enough job with polling? And would you like to see that go up?
It's a very important demographic. All demographics, I think, are very important. Because one of the problems that we have in this country right now is that the purveyors of division have prevailed. And they have convinced us that there's a war on women, and that there's race wars, and that there's income wars, and that there's age wars, and that there's religious wars, and that there's a war on everything, and that anybody that you disagree with is your enemy. It is a big problem in this country. And a wise man once said, a house divided against itself cannot stand. Never has stood, never will stand.
Dr. Carson, the president has rejected the Keystone Pipeline. What is your assessment of his decision?
Well, obviously, you know, he said, well, we'll study this and then we'll abide by the study results. And the study results showed that it's perfectly reasonable and perfectly safe. So now his true colors come out, and he's listening to, you know, those on the left wing who are encouraging him, you know, based on their ideology. And that's one of the big problems that we have in our society today. Decisions are made based on ideology and not on evidence. And I think that's one of the reasons that I encourage people in medicine, science, engineering to go into the political arena, because you're trained to make decisions based on evidence and not on ideology. Ideology does not lead to the right place.
Dr. Carson, that you've experienced, you know, especially today, the last couple of days, is this what keeps people from stepping out and throwing their hat in the ring for elected office? Are you worried about that?
Well, it is. It is a big reason. And it's one of the reasons that no matter how much they beat on me, I'm going to continue to fight this, because, you know, there are those who want people to think that but America was designed for the citizen statesman. And we have a lot of them out there in lots of fields who are incredibly bright, and we need to broaden the pool from which we select our leaders.
Dr. Carson, you mentioned for the first time last night that the stabbing incident was a close relative of yours. You've also said that you had a chance to talk to that person on the phone yesterday. What did that person have to say? Are they upset about the media frenzy?
Well, they're not upset. They just don't want to be a part of it.
They said they would not like their identity revealed.
And that's perfectly reasonable. I've also had a number of people who have contacted us and said, we remember certain things, and I'm I may at some point put those people out there for you guys to eat up.
Aren't you asking a lot of us, Dr. Carson, to believe that...
The homicide rate.
But, hold on.
The homicide rate in our nation and in many cities is going up, and a significant portion of that is black-on-black crime. Can you speak to the issue and maybe do an analysis of the resolution?
Well, black-on-black crime is a huge problem. Crime in our neighborhoods is a big problem. And I guess that's not really all that surprising when you see that 73% of black babies are born out of wedlock. So they're not growing up in the kind of structured homes that we used to have when that wasn't a big problem. And I think you take any society and you throw those kinds of numbers out there, you're going to have a lot of, particularly a lot of young men who are growing up without the same type of authority figure. So they don't necessarily learn how to relate to authority until it's too late. Sometimes, they're learning that from a police officer or from somebody else in their neighborhood who's badder than they are. In either case, it can turn out to be a very bad situation. And it's something that we all have to get involved in. Some of the programs that I admire the most, things like Save Our Youth, where individuals go out, they adopt these young people who are going down the wrong pathway, not officially, but unofficially, bring them into their world, show them that there is a different way, help them with a different set of values. And almost all of those kids graduate from high school, and many of them go on to college. And that's what happens when we are willing to invest in each other, and that's something that is critical for our nation.
Two more questions.
Intimated,
A
right?
relevant factor in terms of the transition, the God factor. In your life, God was relevant, extraordinarily relevant for you to make the transition from
Right.
an angry black boy in Detroit to the man that you are today.
Yes.
Is that factor relevant for our children who are so involved and so misdirected in terms of committing homicides?
Yeah. Well, obviously, I feel that faith is important. The secular progressive movement does not, they ridicule anything that has to do with it. But the fact of the matter is, you look at the coins in your pocket and the bills in your wallet, they say, "In God we trust." Our founding document, Declaration of Independence, talks about certain inalienable rights given to us by our Creator. Our Pledge of Allegiance says we are one nation under God. There are many references to God in our monuments and in all the things that are America. And yet, we're trying to convince people that you got to take that out of your life. You got to take that out of the public square. There is nothing in the Constitution of the United States that says that at all. And I do believe it is a huge factor when people do not have that basis of what is right and what is wrong, when everybody is for himself and decide what's right and what's wrong, and that does not work very well.
Last question.
You're asking a lot of us, though, Dr. Carson. You're asking us to believe folks that you won't present to us to verify your description of your youthful violence.
You don't have to believe it.
You're also asking us to
you don't have to believe it.
The details of this scholarship offer that may or may not have been.
It's perfect.
Why should we believe any of this
It's
stuff?
perfectly clear. It's been investigated. I want you to go and read not the left-wing stuff, but read some of the neutral stuff, including what the New York Times wrote today. Read what the Washington Post wrote today. I'm not talking about left-wing organizations there. There is a fair way to do this, and there is a very unfair way to do this. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Doctor.